You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
And we're now joined with Ian Goodwin. And Ian is the Sheppey chairman of the local branch of the Royal British Legion. Ian, it's great to have you along with us. And of course, a bit of a different hat tonight.
I'm not wearing my Coast Guard hat tonight, Daniel. I'm wearing the hat of the Royal British Legion. And thank you very much for inviting me in this evening.
So I was wondering if you could tell us what the British Legion is all about, and why did the poppy become the emblem as well?
Yeah, certainly. Well, good evening to everyone, and I hope you find this particular interview very interesting. And good evening to you, Mo. That's Maureen Vaughan, who's the secretary. I know she's listening in this evening. I'm not sure if anyone else is, but good evening to everyone. So what is the Royal British Legion? Well, if I could just give you a short history. The First World War, which you're probably aware is known as the Great War, which was fought between 1914 and 1918, very significant because it's coming up to the 100th anniversary next year. Somewhere over 6 million Britishmen took part in the fighting. 6 million. Think about that. I mean, that's virtually about half the population of the Greater London now. That's a significant amount of people. And about 725,000 lost their lives. So if you took everyone on the Isle of Sheppey at the height of summer and actually multiplied that by 20 times as many people, that's how many people lost their lives. And and also significantly, 1.75 million returned home with various injuries and disabilities. Now, some of these veterans, and they were heroes who gave us our freedom, were unable to find work, and unfortunately they became homeless, resorted to living on the streets and begging for food, which is, unacceptable, and clearly would be unacceptable 100 years later. And many of the wives of those who had died found themselves homeless and had to live and work in workhouses, and their children were sent to children's homes. So not pretty bleak, as all wars are, but particularly bleak after this particular war. And as I say, the country was certainly not a land fit for heroes. They weren't celebrated as they are now, and or commemorated, should I say. And Lance Bombardier Tommy Lister decided that if the government wouldn't do anything to help these people, then he would do everything he could himself. So Lance Bombardier Tom Lister is really the sort of crowning saint of the Royal British Legion. And of course he got the right people involved, like Field Marshal Haig and everything. But he wanted to help the veterans find work and live somewhere to live. And he wanted to provide food and shelter to those families who have lost their husbands and fathers during the war. And as a result, 92 years ago, in May 1921, the British Legion was born. And in November 1921, the first poppy peel was helped to raise money for the veterans and their families. And on the 11th of November, the first ever Remembrance Day was held. And we take that for granted now, that we always know that the poppy appeal comes up round about October, and we all know about the November and the Remembrance Day. A lot of people say, well, why did the poppy become the emblem of the Legion? Well, during the Great War, areas of France and Belgium saw some of the bloodiest fighting ever. And some areas were completely devastated. Now, I've actually been to these fields, and you can actually still see the bomb craters after all these years, and we're talking about almost 100 years ago. Absolute amazing. And no roads or houses, and no trees, and certainly no grass. And you've probably seen the pictures of just mud. Now, the strange thing is, the only flower that appeared to survive was the blood red poppy. And I read somewhere that it can be incubated, the seed of the poppy. It can actually live for many years without actually growing, and it was only the disturbance of it that all these poppies started to come up. You imagine all these bombs coming over, Daniel.
Yep.
And it just blew up all the fields, and it disturbed the fields, and it was the blood red poppy, which was significant. And they grew every year and became a symbol of life, of hope, of colour, and assurance to those still fighting. Now, inspired by this flower, on the 3rd of May 1915, a Canadian medical officer named Colonel John McCrae wrote some words in his pocketbook, and these were later published as the famous poem In Flanders Fields. And I'll just finish off with this one. You know, in Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark, still bravely singing, fly, scarcely heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up your quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep through poppies grow, though poppies grow in Flanders field. And that's how it all came about, the actual poppy itself.
I know we're going to go on to talking about the 11th of November and it being important, and also with the poppies as well, Ian.
Yeah. Well, you know, just following on from the poem in Flanders Field, an American war secretary named Mona Michael was so moved by the poem that she wrote, "And now the torch and poppy red, wear in honour of the dead." And she brought some red poppies with some money given to her by work colleagues, and wearing one herself, she sold the rest to family and friends and gave the money she raised to servicemen in need. And strangely enough, in France, Madame Anne Goodwin took up the idea of selling poppies for fundraising purposes, and then introduced the idea to the newly formed British Legion, who took it as their symbol. So, what you know, a lot of people say, why is the 11th of November very important? You know, some people know. You know, a lot of listeners tonight will know. It's because at 11 o'clock on the morning of the 11th of November 1918, the guns fell silent, and the Great War ended. And this became known as Armistice Day. So now, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we, the nation, observe a 2-minute silence to remember all those servicemen and women who died fighting for freedom, not only in the Great War, but in all conflicts since then. And those conflicts include the Second World War, Malaya, Palestine, Cyprus, Borneo, the Falklands, Iraq, and of course Afghanistan, where servicemen and women are being killed and injured still. And we know only too well how that brought to home, as we know about a number of people who we know who have been killed in Afghanistan. Most notably Daniel Holcomb, who's the brother of one of my colleagues, Matthew Holcomb, who works now on the Coast Guard with us as a Coast Guard rescue officer. And so on the second Sunday in November, which we call Remembrance Sunday, the Royal British Legion also hold parades and services across the country, led by the Queen at the Cenotaph Parade in London. And, you know, you look back and probably reflect, and we probably all know someone now, Daniel, who's been in the services, whether it be a relative or someone we're friends with. And you've heard me probably use the word the British Legion and the Royal British Legion. Well, we didn't actually get the royal status until 1971. And so technically now we are called the Royal British Legion. And today the Legion provides financial, social and emotional support to serving and ex-serving members of the armed forces and their families. And that means approximately 10.5 million people in the UK are eligible for help and assistance from the Legion. You know, in other words, Daniel, that's 1 in 6 of the population are eligible for help from the Legion. And I'll come on to that after the next record, exactly what that sort of help and assistance is.
Ian, what does it actually do, and how does it help servicemen and women?
Well, the purpose of the Royal British Legion is to help those in need. For instance, 160,000 calls to the Legion last year directly helped 16,000 veterans of Iraq and of Afghanistan. That's just Iraq and Afghanistan. We provide help to individuals in a range of different ways. For example, we can provide help with holidays, housing, mobility scooters, as well as providing financial assistance. We help veterans who served between the wars, right through to those who are still serving today. And at the moment, we are getting more and more requests to help those and the families of those returning from fighting in Afghanistan. We provide help and support to people every day of the year, and to do that, we need to raise a lot of money. And we currently spend about £72 million each year So we actually spend, the Royal British Legion, somewhere in the region of £200,000 every single day. That's a significant amount of money. And how do we do that? Well, there's fundraising events happening all year round, not just by members of the Legion, but by a great many of our supporters too. One way we raise the funds, probably the best known way, as most people is through the annual Poppy Appeal. But there are other things, and just you know, we've new initiatives in the last sort of couple of years is Be the Boss, help 500 leavers set up businesses, free independent inquest advice service for bereaved armed force families, benefits and money advice service, which where we wrote off £15 million in debt and claimed £6 million in benefits for those people who are in debt. Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, we added 20 million to serious injury claims. We represent a third of all claims by wounded in Afghanistan. 3,500 given daily living aids worth 5.2 million. 11,230 given immediate aid worth 6.1 million. And I could just go on and on and on all of these, and you know, help to other service charities. For instance, 1.8 million to combat stress, 2.6 million to St Dunstan's, and you know, it's something, you know, the Legion can be justly proud of. And we have a number of break centres as well. We've got 4 in Weston-super-Mare, and Bridlington, Merseyside and Portrush, and they provide something in the region of 5,000 short breaks for the elderly and 1,400 family and adventure breaks for children in need. We support retirement homes. We've got 7 retirement homes scattered across the country. We've got Army Personnel Recovery Centres, Battle Back Challenge Centres, and we've pledged a lot of money to assist those. So it's very important, you know, when you put it into context, about £72 million we actually spend each year, £200,000. And as I said, the biggest way of doing that is a Poppy Appeal, and I'll come on to that after the next record, Daniel, if I may.
And Ian, I know you want to talk a bit more about the Poppy Appeal and what it is.
Yeah. Well, well, most people know. You know, you've been seeing people who are collecting money for the Royal British Legion, and in the past 12 months, the Poppy Appeal has raised over £40 million with over 1.3 million in Kent alone, and if you look at it, you know, it's marvellous, really. I mean, on the island where what I represent is the chairman of the Sheerness branch. Sheerness alone last year, for that short time period, actually raised £13,500, and I think the island itself in total was £20,000, and you know, that's great. It really is good, and it's money which is put to very good use. And every year, over 42 million poppies and 107,000 poppy wreaths are made for the Poppy Appeal in the poppy factory at Richmond in Surrey. So 42 million poppies are made, and these are distributed to all of the Legion's volunteer Poppy Appeal organisers, and we have one, Miss Julie Austin, who's our Poppy Appeal organiser, and strangely enough, she's in the army, and she's a serving soldier in the army. And in Kent alone, there are 109 Poppy Appeal districts. So as you can imagine, it's a pretty mammoth task getting out 42 million poppies. And every year we need to raise even more money as the number of requests for help continues to increase year by year. And you can particularly understand that with what I've been talking about earlier on, about all the, you know, the wars and the armed conflicts which are going on. So in a couple of months, you know a little bit. Those people who perhaps weren't enlightened about what the Legion do, you know, wear your poppy and dig deep. And I'll come back a little bit in a couple of months' time and do the appeal for the Poppy Appeal. And hopefully from there. Now, you asked me an interesting question earlier on when we were talking off air about 2 things. You asked me, do you need to be in the services to join the Royal British Legion? The answer was yes, you used to, but not anymore, because I'm now the chairman and I haven't had a service career. I mean, you know, I haven't been in the Army, Navy or Air Force, but I ended up as the chairman of the Royal British Legion for Sheppey, and you for Sheerness, and you asked me how did that come about?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, well, it was ever so simple. They were the problem is if you don't have a particular committee within the and committee members, you do have to have a chairman, you do have to have a secretary, you do have to have a treasurer, etc., and you have to have a group of committee members, and no one had actually come forward to be the chairman of the Sheppey branch, and the problem is if you don't have a chairman, your branch closes, and if your branch closes, you lose what's called the standard, and obviously the branch closes and there's no poppy appeal and everything else. And because Minster had closed and East Church had actually closed, the island was in danger of actually having no Royal British Legion presence on the island itself. And Mooring, Mo, as she's known, and she's ex-army, ex-guard, with her husband Steve. She put in basically she did an article in the newspaper, and I was reading that article and I thought, goodness me, for the sake of chairing a few meetings now and again, I'd hate to see the Royal British Legion fold, and so I sort of threw my hat in the ring. The branch picked it up, and that's how I ended up as chairman, and I'm really humbled to be doing such a. I think it's lovely. It's a great role. It's a friendly branch, and we do a lot of work for the Royal British Legion, and I'm very proud to be a member of that. I was never a member beforehand, but I'm very proud to do that, and it's something I'm really interested in to help all of our servicemen. And if I may sort of finish off now on the membership side, let's do another track. And then I'll come on to the actual membership and what I'm trying to get people to do.
And I think we're going to finish off about membership.
Yeah, we've got a nice little text message just come in. Yeah, it says, "Hi Daniel, it's Chris from Sittingbourne." Hello Chris, good evening to you. I think the British Legion are an absolutely fantastic institution, as both my in-laws were service personnel, and they paid, that's the Legion, for I call it the Legion, it is actually the Royal British Legion, but it's shortened when I use the word Legion, paid for the wake for both of them, which we could not afford, so I did a boot sale down the side of the Swale Council offices and raised £250, which was nowhere near enough. God bless them, which is very nice, and thank you very much for that, Chris. £250 is a significant amount of money, so well done for doing that. But in terms of membership, I know, Daniel, it's how people have these perceptions. I mean, you thought you had to be retired and had to be a service personnel to join the Royal, and both of those are not at all. I haven't retired, not yet. I haven't been put out yet, but another few more years in me, and I'm certainly not an ex-service person. And at the end of the day, I mean, I was also pleasantly surprised that the actual membership fee itself is £14, and which is less than 25p a week. And that's put to good use. I mean, we also make some contributions in charity, and we have a raffle and all of that. And but the Legion is not only a welfare organisation, but a membership organisation too. And we've got somewhere in the region of 360,000 members in 2,600 branches. And in Kent, there are over 10,000 members in 79 branches. And Sheerness is one of those branches. At the books at this moment, the last count, we've got actually 62 members. Queenborough is a sub-branch of us. They couldn't quite get all the committee together, and Anne Hines has done some sterling work down there. She's effectively their sort of chairman, and they meet once every quarter. And the Minster branch is sadly closed. And what do these branches consist of? Well, we've got a chairman, a secretary, a treasurer, a membership secretary, a poppy appeal organiser, a parade marshal, and a standard bearer. And in addition to that, some other memberships made up of that. And but if you start to look at it in terms of all the volunteers, there are about 1 million members, volunteers, caseworkers, and fundraisers. 1 million. And in addition to that, there are around 1.8 million followers on Facebook and Twitter. 1.8 million. But we're not complacent. And one of the things that we've been doing down at Sheerness is to try and engage what we call service youth organisations. So we're getting the Army, the Sea Cadets, the Army Cadets, the Air Cadets, St John's Ambulance and the Scouts to sign up as a sort of a sort of protocol between us. We assist them and they assist us, an affiliation if you like. They get a little badge to say they're part of the Legion. They can join up as a member, a youth member, as £5, and they get the Legion magazine and everything else. And it's no wonder we can proudly claim to be the #1 provider of welfare, comradeship, representation and remembrance for the armed forces community. So if you think that you can help us continue our work by becoming a member or volunteer in our welfare or fundraising business, then please come and see us. Ideally, what I'd really like next year is 100 members, each member representing 1 year since the start of the Great War in 1914. And we meet, meetings are held on the first Monday each month, unless it's a bank holiday, at the Co-op Club, St George's Avenue, Sheerness, at 7:30. So if you want to come along, you want to join up, and you're interested in helping all of these appeals and helping all of these servicemen and servicewomen, our next meeting is on Monday, the 2nd of September, and that's at the Co-op Club in St George's Avenue. If you can't make that, we have an AGM on the 14th of October. And if you can't make that, we have another one, a branch meeting on the 4th of November, first Monday of the month, and the 2nd of December, the first Monday of that month. But the next one is on the 2nd of September. So please come along. And I'd just like to, from a personal point of view, I'd just like to thank everyone in the Sheerness branch and the Queenborough branch for welcoming me. I wasn't a member up until February. I too didn't know the full extent of what the Legion did, so I took it on myself to read up a little bit about it, and I just want to thank everyone who's within the branch, and particularly people like Tom Redman, the former chairman, Mrs Maureen Vaughan, who's the secretary, Mike Sanger, who's the treasurer, Derek Foreman, who's our membership secretary, Julie Austin, who does the Poppy Appeal, Steve Louch, our parade marshal, our committees, Brian Homewood, Rita Sanger and Valerie Mains. I'd just like to say a big personal thank you to them. They've made me feel very welcome, and hopefully we'll go for strength to strength. And I'd just finally like to leave you all with this. At each meeting of the membership, we start, and every service of remembrance, we start with what's called the exhortation, and I'm going to read that out to you now. It can be quite moving, but I've read it. I'm not going to get tearful over it, but it's: they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, and we certainly will remember them. But there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of people out there who need our help. And as I say, I'll come back in 2 months' time, and we'll start getting that Poppy Appeal going on the island. And let's hope we're going to have a bumpy year raising some funds.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for
coming
on
Daniel.
and telling us all about it.